Welcome to Top 10 with Jen, my new show that will be on daily, featuring the 10 best or worst things that happened to the particular person we are featuring. Today it is Donald Trump, and he has had more than 10 disasters this week, but we will have to pick and choose. Number 10 is this. A bunch of guys, good old boys, sitting around a cafe in Georgia and just shooting the shit and saying what they think about Donald. This is huge.
Republican, Yeah, I vote for the man. I don't vote for the party.
So what are your thoughts on the election?
What are my thoughts on what?
On the election.
Ain't much to think about it.
Well, who are you going to vote for?
The right person.
Well, who do you think the right
I'm
person
gonna
is?
be Donald Trump.
Okay,
Ooh.
tell me why.
Last time you saw him talking, did you watch his lips? Were they moving? He's lying.
All right, well, so Mr. Wilson here was telling us that January 6th was a big disqualifier for him.
It should have been.
How do you feel about that?
I feel about it like he's anti-American. He's trying to overthrow our government.
Wow.
And so are you thinking about voting for Harris?
Yeah, I have to.
Ooh, that's a pretty hard hit. And now, up on our 9th worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week. It relates to him being an expert on anything. Lately, he's been hating on Detroit, and he has become an expert on assembling automobiles. Let's do this one.
And they have a little bit, but you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina. But they build everything in Germany, and then they assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, oh, yes, we're building cars. They don't build cars. They take them out of a box and they assemble them. We could have our child do it. But you say,
Really? We could have our child do it. Someone like Eric, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So listen to this smackdown from a UAW worker.
Hi, my name is Donya Ferdinandson with UAW Local 14 of Toledo, Ohio. I am an 18-year UAW member in good standing. I'm making this video in response to Trump's statement that auto workers just assemble parts out of a box. I challenge you, Trump, to one full 12-hour day in any auto assembly plant. I want to see you assemble parts out of a box for 12 hours. Until you accept and complete this challenge, until you actually work a manual labor job, you keep the name of the UAW out of your mouth. Solidarity, y'all.
Okay, so that was pretty bad. But now we have the 8th worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week. And, again, it is hard to choose. But I think this is the one. This is when Donald Trump was thinking he was super smart, talking earlier this week at the Economic Club of Chicago about how he selected his Supreme Court justices, and he just owned himself. Let's take a listen.
actually, they were worried, am I going to be liberal, if you want to know the truth? And somebody said, would you come up with a list of 20 or 25 justices, in this case mostly judges, that you'd put in case it were necessary? Now, it's amazing because I got 3 in 4 years. Most people get none because, you put them in the young.
It's all about him.
You put them in young.
Okay.
Only super people put old. You don't put old in because they're there for 2 years or 3 years. Right?
Only stupid people put old. Okay, let's just translate that into actually complete sentences that someone older than 5 years old would use. Donald Trump is saying that he was smart because he did the obvious, which is when it is a position for life based on how Congress has decided to set things. It's not really set up that way in the U.S. Constitution. Another story. But when the position apparently is for life, of course you would appoint someone who is younger because then they will last for a longer period of time in case the opposing party controls the White House and Senate in terms of appointing justices. So he says you don't put in old because they might not last more than 2 years. Dude, you are 78 years old. Would you vote for yourself? You certainly wouldn't put yourself on the Supreme Court because you would only last 2 years. Are you admitting that you are only going to last 2 years at most and JD Vance is going to take over? That was really a no. Okay, what about number 7? It keeps getting better and better. I think that this is a pretty good one. This is when Donald Trump was on stage and he was at that town hall in Georgia where he just couldn't handle more than 2 questions and decided to either end the thing or just didn't really decide, but went into a kind of fugue state or maybe a state of dementia and was just kind of swaying like this. And I don't know about you in dancing. I don't usually dance like this, but if you do this motion, it's almost like swinging in a swing. It makes you feel really funny. Your stomach feels funny. And I think it might have been a calming motion for him. It's kind of crazy. But before he did that, this is the worst thing that happened to him when Kristi Noem spoke to him like he was a tired child who needed to come to bed. Let's play this.
Anyway, go ahead, please.
Yep. Well, sir, do you want to play your song and then greet a few people, or do you want to? Well, you had said you wanted to close with a specific song. Or
Okay,
we
let's
could
do
take
a couple of
few more
mine.
fast questions.
So, Justin, how about a couple of really beauties, and we'll sit down, relax. Let me just give you the bottom line, though.
So that was pretty weird. That was pretty embarrassing. And we actually kind of know, what happened next with him. Now, and we will, I promise you, we will get to that. Now, we got to think about, things are getting really heated here. What is the sixth worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week? And, it's kind of hard to really pin it down, but I'm going to say it's this moment. We're still kind of on that theme of him being an expert on everything, including automobile manufacturing. And this is not only really weird, really stupid, really non-scientific, but it's also one of these tells about his relationship with Melania. So let's take a look. This is number 6.
Hybrids, we're going to have gasoline-propelled cars. We're not going to have hydrogen cars. Hydrogen cars is the new thing, right? Do you know about that? Hydrogen is the new car. They say it's great. Has one problem. If it explodes, you're dead. If it explodes.
Let me just pause. Do you know that right now, if you actually fill up your car, non-hybrid or non-electric car, what have you, or a hybrid car or a non-electric car, and you fill it up with gasoline, do you know that if you're in a car accident, that in the gas tank is hit, it can also blow up. Perhaps he's forgotten the whole Pinto disasters. But yes, gas is also combustible. Now, secondly, what he is talking about how hydrogen fuel cell cars work is not accurate. But let's keep listening because here is the self-own. And just to be clear, there are many auto companies developing this kind of technology. Once again, it's just like Donald Trump with the boats. He thinks that if it has an electric motor, you might get electrocuted. Just like Donald Trump, who thinks that if you have energy created by wind, if it's not windy outside, suddenly you won't be able to watch television. Okay, let's continue.
They actually say if it explodes, you're unrecognizable. You call your wife over. They call up the wife, would you please come here and take a look and see whether or not this is your husband, because we cannot see. And she goes to the nearest tree, which is about 100 yards away, and she says, no, it's only blood. There's nothing there. She says, I can't tell. So hydrogen has one problem. It's extraordinarily dangerous. Other than that, the car works quite well, actually. I won't get near. I will never get, I don't care how good it becomes. No matter, and they'll probably say they're making it safe, but it'll never be safe enough for us congressmen, right?
What is he talking about? Now, again, we have more to go down in his worst moments. But I do think that another very, very bad moment for Donald Trump, I think I would have to say, beyond even the hydrogen car, was what went down for Donald Trump when he was at Univision yesterday. And you got to wonder if he just has complete disrespect for his audience, because they asked him some of the best questions. Now, keep in mind that he had two things going on yesterday. He was both at this Univision town hall, and he was also at a town hall where Fox News stacked the audience with Republican women. We're going to take a peek at both. So this is number 5 of the worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week. Here we go.
Going to have a good time today. Just very special people, brilliant, energetic, and somehow it just, they've attracted to me, I've attracted to them, and we look forward to having a big win. We're going to create a lot of jobs. We create jobs. That's what I do. Right next door, I own Doral, and a lot of you have seen that. A lot of you are from the area, and that's been a big success. We have tremendous numbers of Hispanic people going there and working there. So we're going to see what you have to say, and we're going to answer some questions. Hopefully they'll be very extremely easy questions, but I look forward to being with you for a little while. Thank you very much.
So that is stupid and embarrassing. And that is the setup to one of the worst things that happened to him. And I just love this one so much at Univision. And we are going to play this because we're going to look really carefully at the person asking the questions, at Donald's response, and then at the people as the camera pans by. This is why it was a disaster. This is one of the very worst things as we work our way up the top 10 list. Let's do it.
I am a Republican, no longer registered though. I want to give you the opportunity to try to win back my vote. Okay, your let me say action and maybe inaction during your presidency and the last few years, sort of, was a little disturbing to me. What happened during January 6th, and the fact that you waited so long to take action while your supporters were attacking the Capitol. Coronavirus, I thought the public was misled during coronavirus, and that many more lives could have been saved if we would have been informed better. And also people in your administration who don't support you. I'm curious how people so close to you and your administration no longer want to support you, so why would I want to support you? If you would answer these questions for me, I would really appreciate it and give you the opportunity. There's, your own vice president doesn't want to support you now.
Thank you, Ramiro.
So
This is Ramiro
the people
Gonzalez.
that don't support, a very small portion. We have a tremendous, about 97% of the people in the administration support me. But because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get a little publicity. The vice president, I disagree with him on what he did. I totally disagreed with him on what he did. Very importantly, you had hundreds of thousands of people come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought the election was a rigged election, and that's why they came. Some of those people went down to the Capitol. I said peacefully and patriotically, nothing done wrong at all, nothing done wrong. And
okay, I'm just going to pause for 1 second. Donald is full of it. He is lying. We know incited the violence and the chaos. He told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. He encouraged people to come down to the Stop This Steal rally. He said it will be wild. He sent people down to the Capitol. He knew his people were shouting, "Hang Mike Pence." I don't need to go over all of the details about who was injured and harmed, but what I want to have you look at is the guy who asked this question, and look at his posture. He wanted to hear a real answer from Donald, and what he is getting is BS. He's got his jaw clenched, his head is down, he's looking it up. Look at him like, come on, man, this is BS. Now keep watching as Donald continues to spew the lies, the big and little lies, at the people in the audience.
And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but we didn't have guns. And when I say we, these are people.
I need you to just look at this. I'm going to go right here. So Let's watch this, and I'm going to freeze it on this woman's face.
In strong action, Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns.
Did you see her face? He says, Ashley Babbitt was killed. No one was killed. And that woman right there, she is all of us. You can look at this again. I'm going back. Everyone there standing has their arms crossed, defensive posture, heads tilted. This is the thing where you're listening to something and you can't believe it's coming your way. So watch that.
Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but we didn't have guns.
Which is not true.
When I say we, these are people that walked down.
He said the others had guns. What others? Every single person who was arrested for violence was a MAGA supporter. Also, we know what we heard from Cassidy Hutchinson about when the magnometers, and he said you were detecting weapons, and that was why it's taking so long to get people into the ellipse. He said, shut down the mags. These are our people. We don't need the mags. They're not going to hurt us. Okay, so this is all lies.
This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands.
Did you watch his face?
The largest.
Wait, it's just the day of love. He's being polite, but watch his head. And let me just say to you, as you know, I just can't even begin to tell you all the lies here, but I just want you to watch Ramiro Gonzalez's face when he says day of love.
Walk down. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands. It could have been the largest group I've ever spoken before. They asked me to speak. I went and I spoke. And I used the term peacefully and patriotically. If you look at the Democrats, what they say, you look at Maxine Waters and you look at Hillary Clinton. And
yeah, that was definitely the fourth worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week, because the whole Univision town hall is like that. And it's embarrassing. And these clips are going to circulate everywhere. And he thought he didn't have to prepare for Latino voters. And this is a huge demographic he thought he was going to increase his popularity with. And he didn't. Now, my third worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week was something he did. And keep in mind, people in this audience were chosen as Republican women. This was an all-women's town hall led by Harris Faulkner of Fox News. And it was not done live. I mean, it was recorded live, but then played. And this is the best that he could do. And this is possibly the most disgusting thing I've ever heard a human being say. Right? He is asked a question. I just want to set this up by Harris Faulkner about how, well, let me just have her ask the question. And then you can hear. Here we go.
The Thurman's family have come out on a press call, and they're doing what's called a pre-buttal 2-hour town hall right now.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah? And I want to
Get better ratings, I promise.
I'm sorry. I need you to hear that again. Harris Faulkner is beginning to ask a question about how Donald Trump is so proud of having appointed those Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade. And now we have the Trump abortion bans throughout the country. And in particular, Texas is a problem. And I'm sorry, this is Georgia in this case. Texas is also a problem. Amber Thurman, as we know, a mother of a small child who was in nursing school and wanted to have a medication abortion and had to leave Georgia. And then when she came back, she had some complications from that medication, went to the hospital, and they refused to treat her because she wasn't on the edge of death, because that is, that is basically what doctors need to wait for in Georgia because they're afraid they will be prosecuted. And she ended up bleeding out and dying, leaving her son without a mother. And so what Harris Faulkner is asking here is, to lead up to this, is that this family was having doing something on television to share with the public a pre-buttal, meaning to in advance talk about what it means for Donald Trump to speak to a group of women and how he has harmed women, essentially. And when she raises that, his only thought is ratings, not about the tragic death of this mother, not about the orphan son, not about the mom and the family who've lost this beautiful woman. I'm going to play this again. this is the third worst thing that happened to Donald this week.
Amba Thurman's family have come out on a press call, and they're doing what's called a prebuttal 2-hour town hall right now.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah? And I want to
Get better ratings, I promise.
And women laughed at that. It's not funny. It's not funny. And by the way, press call doesn't mean it was video. It could have just been phone. It could have also been Zoom. I don't know that. And now we have the second worst thing that happened to Donald this week. And here we go.
Thurman's family.
Oops. I'm sorry. I just had that one. Now I have the second worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week. And let me tell you about that one. The second worst thing that happened to him this week was having a former member of the military who is now helping lead the National Guard speak out against just how dangerous Donald is. And I need to make this as clear as I can that Donald Trump is obviously unhinged and unstable. But in this situation, we're talking about a retired major general who is now helping lead the National Guard. And this is the second worst thing that happened to Donald this
General
week.
Randy Manner, he endorsed Kamala Harris for president. General, thank you for being here. That phrase, I wonder what your immediate thought was when you hear the enemy from within. I mean, the vice president took that on quite forcefully tonight, talking about his threats possibly to use the military. What was your take and reaction?
So, first of all, the vice president is correct. You're correct. While he's not in office, he cannot do anything to harm Americans directly. If he was to be the commander-in-chief again, everything changes. The Supreme Court has given him immunity. And the threshold for turning the National Guard into his personal police force is quite low. As long as he has a consenting governor, he can authorize the funds to pay them as the commander-in-chief, and he can use the National Guard almost in any way that he wants. And most Americans don't know how very easy it would be for an unhinged president to use the military against our own citizens.
Could he force an unwilling governor to do the same, or he would have to have one complicit?
So it's easy if the governor is complicit. If it's an unwilling governor, he could consider using the active duty. There are so many things that could be done because these are areas where sane men don't go. It's basically the guardrails of our democracy. The rule of law prevents civilian leaders from going where they should not go. But President Trump is not.
And I'm playing this because this is, of course, the second worst thing that happened to him, because they're talking about someone who is in the National Guard referring to and speaking with Laura Coates, the host, about how dangerous Donald would be in office and how people who were in his military agree with him on this and warning people that this is serious.
Like any sane leader.
One of the common pushbacks I hear when anyone sort of opines about the prospect of him using the military is they say that you are undermining the military. You are not giving them enough credit. They would not perform or follow an unlawful order of any kind. What do you say to that?
So it's very important to understand that the President of the United States, he or she selects all the officers for promotion in our military. Congress, the Senate approves those nominations, but it's the president who does it. So under Project 2025, it is proposed that he's going to require the equivalent of a loyalty oath, or they call it an interview, of all 3- and 4-star generals. Well, you can imagine, it's only because we had people like Secretary of Defense Mark Esper and then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Milley, with their strong personalities that served as a guardrail on the way to block the president from doing some quite, frankly, illegal and inappropriate actions while he was president.
Speaking of Joint Chiefs Mark Milley, he told Bob Woodward He was the chairman of that, of course. Trump is now the most dangerous person to this country. I had suspicions when I talked to you about his mental decline and so forth, but now I realize he's a total fascist. This is a stunning statement from somebody of such high ranking.
Yes.
What does it say that someone like Milley would vocalize this and believe it?
Well, I'm very proud of General Milley for saying what he did to Bob Woodward. It's important that we step back for a second. I'm so surprised how many people do not even know what the concept of fascism is. It's something, so let's just back up a second. So if you go to Webster online, you're going to find that fascism is defined as it's usually nationalistic, it's far right. Okay, let's see. So that's certainly the Trump campaign. And Trump, it's going to be intolerant of dissenting opinions. Okay, we got to check on that. There's a contempt for the rule of law, or only the laws they want to follow. We got to check on that. And then also unquestioning obedience to the supreme leader. Okay, check. And then lastly, it's this concept of a supremacy of a race or a religion. Well, check, check. White and Christian are the backbone of his people. That is actually the definition of fascism. And I encourage your viewers to look it up themselves and draw their own conclusions. Well, Mark Milley, extremely well educated. He's very articulate, very smart man. He and I worked together in the Pentagon many years ago, literally person to person for a long time. If he, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, is calling the president a fascist, I am so proud of him for breaking that barrier to speak to the truth that he is. The challenge is because most MAGA Republicans, and please understand, I am not referring to Republicans in general, but the very far right, the hardcore, they don't understand what fascism is. The reality is they are, in fact, fascists themselves.
There you have it. That is the second worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week. Okay, and now I have to tell you about the very, very number one worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week. And here I am going to show it to you. And I think you probably know that the very, very worst thing that happened to Donald Trump this week was his crazy, bizarre dancing queen fugue state for 38 minutes, where he was mostly kind of swaying in place and listening to his
Or do you want to
song
play your
list.
song and then greet a few people, or do you want to?
And I need to.
Well, you had said you wanted.
Right, this is what I'm muting the sound right now because I cannot play it without getting a copyright hit. So I'll play some crazy town music for you. And you can hear, or you can watch, this is what Donald Trump did. This is the worst thing that happened to him in his campaign this week. He is totally decompensating. He's just standing there on stage, swaying like this. For the most part, nodding his head to music. And here are some clips. And you can see it's 7:58 at this point, and now here's 8:06, and he's still kind of just standing there. Now he's holding onto his chair, staring off. His feet are almost glued to the stage. And there you have it. There you have it. He continues. And so, guys, that's what I have for you for the show, and I will see you today. I will see you again tomorrow with another episode of Top 10 with Jen. You never know who we're going to feature. It could be the best, it could be the worst, it could be something entirely shocking. Thanks for watching.